200. It is Sunday, November 6th. Yes, and we are in week 12 of the semester. Hard to believe. It's gone by pretty fast for me, probably a little bit slower for you. So we're getting to that time this semester when people start to get a little worried about their grades. You still have plenty of points in the class, so do not panic at this point. We have a CT2, our second little paper coming up that's due on Wednesday. We are going to have our second midterm exam open for 2 weeks because I know the last few classes can be pretty chaotic. So we're going to have it open starting the weekend before Thanksgiving break.
That's our dog. Sorry.
Our dog came to say hi.
She's a gerontology dog too.
She's very much a gerontology.
Here, watch. Ready?
Can we say hi, Bella? Wait. There she is. There she is.
Oh, gerontology out. It's going to be 14.
Girl.
She's all messed up
yes.
too.
She is an experiment in polypharmacy right now because we give her lots of different meds.
She does all well. She does all right.
I'm not willing to give up on her yet.
She's good.
Anyway.
She walked for 4 miles today.
She did. She has a big heart. Yeah. So anyway, so we've got the CT2 due on Wednesday. We've got the second midterm. I'll send out a study guide, kind of a guideline of what to pay attention to. We've got our extra credit. Do the first day of finals, and some people record videos of them. I think that's cool. I love seeing you guys. If you have any trouble uploading it to Blackboard, you can upload it to Google Drive and then send me a link, or upload the link, or email it to me, whatever. Let me know if you have problems.
Talk not only about your COVID experience, but tell us how this class has just made every difference in the world to your life.
And we want to hear about your lives because it's important.
Awesome.
Anyway, and final interview paper due that first day of finals, which is December 7th, I think. Right. Yes, it's a Wednesday.
What do? You get out your phone and
put it in your calendar.
You put it in your calendar.
He's doing it right now.
Right there. Yeah. All right, so just get it going.
Okay. And we do take late final papers, but we are under a deadline to submit our grades. So I will reaffirm with you that you've got to get it in by the following Wednesday. You lose 10% a day. Try to get it in on time. And Thanksgiving break or the next couple of weeks are a good time for you to contact an older person in your family.
Talk to your parents or your grandparents at Thanksgiving.
Grandparents, aunts, uncles, neighbors. You could interview someone you know on campus. If you can't find someone to interview, let us know. And you can interview us. We're old.
Right, and plus, once you get done with your interview with your parents or grandparents, then you can, so you don't have to hang around with them during Thanksgiving, because I know how icky that is. You can just say, "Hey, I got to go write a paper now." So it was nice talking to you, Dad. Okay, bye.
So anyway, today we're talking about legal issues.
Let's do it.
And that's why I'm here, because I'm a lawyer.
Yes, she is. Very successful lawyer. Right.
And the good news about today is what we're talking about. You don't need a lawyer to get your living will or durable power of attorney for healthcare put together. There's plenty of good samples online that you can use, and most states have this actually prepared in their state law, in their probate code or something like that. And so there's a lot of resources that you could find out on the internet if you want to have a living will or durable power of attorney for healthcare.
You're going to tell us what those things are?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Otherwise, it would just be a mystery.
Hey, what is that? Check it out. She's got her Saints shirt on. They're making a comeback. And they're playing Monday Night Football.
Yes, they're on Monday Night Football.
And they're gonna beat up. Who are they playing? I can't remember.
Baltimore.
That's a tough one.
Baltimore's only favored to win by 2 points, so I'm excited.
One. Okay, I'm going to scroll down here just to remind you, always open your quiz in a separate browser, and then you'll have them open simultaneously when you're going through these things. Okay. All right. You can even open your quiz while you're listening to her, and maybe answer some questions.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. That's it.
So the reading that we've given you is Advanced Care Planning Tip Sheet.
Should I open
It's from the NIH. Yeah, you can.
All right.
And the idea here is that you put down in writing what you want to happen if you become ill and cannot make your own decisions. So in the US, we have this huge emphasis on personal autonomy and independence and valuing the decisions of the individual. So unlike a lot of other countries, here the doctor is supposed to listen to the patient, do what the patient says, as long as that patient is able to make their own decisions. But What if you get in a car accident? What if you're in a coma? What if you start to develop dementia and you can no longer make your own decisions? It's a great idea after the age of 18 to have an advance directive. So that means all of you could and should put together an advance directive.
Right. If you got in an auto accident, would you want to be kept in a coma? And maybe even potentially, depending what state you're in, maybe basically you're brain dead. You want to be kept alive for 15, 20 years. That's actually your decision.
And these are cases that have gone up to the Supreme Court before, where there's been a disagreement among family members. Maybe, mom and dad are divorced, or, you're not married, but you have a long-term partner that you want to make decisions, and then that person gets shut out of making decisions because you don't have anything in writing. So that's what an advance directive does. And you can have two different types of advance directives. There's a living will, which basically tells your doctor, if I'm dying, this is what I want to happen. So it's a little bit more limited. Do I want to be on a ventilator? What types of treatments do I want to have? But you could also have a durable power of attorney for healthcare, which is a lot broader. So I have John set up to be my decision maker if I'm not able to make my own decisions. And then I have, as a lawyer, I like to have layers of protection. So he's number one. My son, who's 26, is number two. My son, who's 21, is number three.
And then Bella.
She's going to keep me alive at all costs. I know she will. But yeah, and so it's good to have multiple people in mind, because what if the first person you've selected has been in an accident with you and they're not able to act for you? You need to have a backup and a backup plan. Okay, so things that you need to decide is, do you want CPR? In the event that your heart stops, do you want CPR? If you're young and healthy, the answer is probably yes. If you're older, frail, maybe you have a terminal illness, CPR isn't really effective. It's not like on TV where they do the CPR and the person kind of leaps up and they're like, hey, I'm fine. In real life, there are definitely patient populations where the chances of CPR being effective are vanishingly small, like less than 1%. So this is a conversation to have maybe with your doctor. Do I want CPR? Will it be effective? But like I said, if you're a young, healthy person and you've suddenly just had some cardiac event and you drop down on the floor, yes, if you drop down on the floor in my classroom, I'm probably going to do CPR on you, unless you told me you don't want it. Do I want to be on a ventilator?
This is very topical, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Pre-COVID, a lot of people would have said, oh no, I don't want to be on a machine to keep me breathing. And then when COVID came around, it was a part of the treatment for people that were critically ill in the ICU to be put on a ventilator. Now, a lot of those people died anyway, but some of them made it. And so I think ventilator use and how we feel about ventilator use may have changed during the pandemic. And you can certainly put into your living will or your durable power of attorney instructions to your doctor that you'd like a trial period. So I'd like a trial period of ventilator use. And if it doesn't look like I'm going to be weaned off the ventilator ever, then I want you to take me off of it and let me die naturally.
Some people said no.
Yeah. Do you want artificial nutrition, artificial hydration? Maybe for a while, maybe not at all. Maybe you want to be fed right up until the end. And so it really depends on your feeling. And this is kind of for me, I think more of an emotional topic. As the law has evolved in the United States, we went first to can you refuse a CPR? Then we went to can you refuse ventilator use? And then later on in cases, it became, can we take this patient off artificial nutrition and hydration and let them die? And so it's something that you have to think about. It's also really important to realize that your views on this might change over time. So your perspective and your thoughts on this when you're 20 might be different than when you're 50 or when you're 70 or when you're 90. And so it's a good idea, whatever document you have, whether it's a living will or an advance directive, or most documents are kind of a combination of both, revisit it every 5 years and make sure that the people that you want to be your decision makers are still the same people, and communicate with them or put down in writing what you want to have happen if you aren't able to make your own decisions. So, and the other issue that usually comes up is, do I want comfort care? this is kind of a no-brainer for most people. Yes, I want to be kept comfortable. If I'm having difficulty breathing, give me medication that will ease my breathing. If I'm having pain, give me medication for my pain. If I'm having sometimes people, and when they are dying, have agitation or anxiety, then yes, give me medication that will help me relax and calm
So
down.
does this come under the umbrella title of palliative care and hospice? Is that where that kicks in, or is that
Kind of, but this can also be part of the advanced directive
okay?
process. And but I also know people, for example, my niece's husband, so he's my nephew. He's a recovering alcoholic and drug addict, so he's very anti-pain meds for him, for his situation. So you might know someone who would say, no, I don't want to have any sort of pain meds. Don't do that. Anything but pain meds. And so that's a very individual choice.
So I scrolled down because basically she described everything that was, in the text. So now we
There you
can
go.
move on to the
Okay.
next part.
So now I want to talk a little bit about hospice care and palliative care, which are also end of life decisions. And a lot of times when you're deciding, do you want hospice care? Do you want palliative care? You're still able to make your own decisions. A lot of people are confused about the difference between hospice and palliative care. And in the US, hospice care is something that you would go on to when you are terminal. So a doctor has to have said that you're terminal within 6 months in order to qualify for hospice care under Medicare or under most insurance policies. And so mostly what you get with hospice care is support for the patient, support for the family members as you go through the process of dying. So it tends to be really close to the end of your life. I think the average number of days people are on hospice care is maybe 18 days. I encourage people, don't wait till the last minute, because there are studies that show that people who go onto hospice care sooner have a better quality of life and live longer than people who don't. So
It's, I was thinking about it now, it's also kind of your own little family-based death with dignity thing, because I went through it with my mom. You went through it with your aunt, and the nurses that helped in terms of the hospice care, they just kind of looked at us and said, don't hold back on the morphine.
yeah.
So
That's true. And so for people who are nearing the end of life, if they're having any sort of pain or discomfort, you usually have some sort of sometimes liquid morphine patches, fentanyl patches, things like that, that can address that. And so because those things usually inhibit your breathing, it can be the case that the person maybe dies a little sooner, and maybe super comfortable.
yeah.
But anyway, again, that's
I'm just
an
throwing it out
individual.
there.
It's
I'm
an
just
individual
throwing it
decision.
out there.
So, in terms of palliative care, you can be on palliative care if you're 6 years old and have a chronic disease and you have uncomfortable symptoms as a result of that disease, or you might have metastatic cancer, but you are expected with treatment to live another 7, 8, 9, 10 years. But in the meantime, you've got some pain, you've got maybe some difficulty breathing, maybe you've got fluid in your abdomen. And so palliative care is a lot broader than hospice care. You don't have to be terminal. It's still intended to make you comfortable and
But
help
the
you feel
difference is you're
comfortable.
still in treatment, trying to
And
stay alive.
you can still continue to pursue the
Yeah.
treatment for your underlying condition, where once you go into hospice care, you are saying, I'm not going to have treatment anymore. If I'm a cancer patient, if I'm a Parkinson's patient, I'm not going to have treatment anymore for that condition. I'm just going to focus on medications and treatments that will help me feel comfortable.
Okay, now do you want to continue on with this part, or you want to go on to the next page?
We can go to the next page.
Okay, cool.
So think about what you want. Think about what you want at the end of life for your living well. Think about what you want in general. If you're not able to make your own decisions, if you think that someday you might have dementia or something like that, who do you want to make decisions for you? And communicate to them what your values are. Do you think, well, hey, I'm young and I'm healthy, and sure, I might get hit by a car, or sure, I might have a stroke or something, but I think I can come back from it. So give me a chance. Don't give up on me too fast. Or you might say, you know what? In my case, I mean, I've had a great life. I've done a lot of things that I wanted to do, and I'm a cancer patient, so I've had to think about what I want the end of my life to look like. And so I would probably be a little quicker to say, hey, don't be heroic. If I am at the end of my life and I get pneumonia, don't treat the pneumonia, just let me go. It'll be quick, it'll be relatively easy. And so those are just value judgments that are going to be really personal and unique to every single person.
So
But
this is right here. This is a big deal. If somebody gets to the point they're incapacitated, I mean, I went through this with my dad. Well, we're in the hospital. He's not conscious, and doctor says to me, and I was what 40s maybe, and
yeah,
they say, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep him intubated? Do you want to keep the oxygen flowing, or do you want to pull him off? And then the entire family looks at me. So there you go. It's all on you, baby.
sometimes
So,
when you're the most educated people in the family, if like for John and I, we're both first generation college students. So a lot of times our family members do turn to us for advice in situations like that. And so we would, I think in your dad's case, we knew from things that he had said that he didn't want to be kept alive on a respirator. And also because of his age, because he was in his late 80s, the doctor recommended, hey, let's take him off. We've tried weaning him off the respirator. It hasn't been successful. He's not getting better. At that point, I think he'd been in a coma for a week or two. And then, so the doctor was suggesting, let's take him off the respirator and see what happens. And so that's often a discussion. Now, if you,
I was trying to look this up. Now, she was talking about she's lived a good life and she wants to be. I had a little joke. I couldn't remember. I was having a senior moment, so I had to look it up on my phone. Phones help you through those senior moments.
and tell us your joke now, honey.
So I was just hoping to keep you going, kind of like Weekend at Bernie's. If you haven't seen Weekend at Bernie's, you have to check it out. The person walks around with this dead person for weeks. It's like this.
He's just gonna keep me propped up in the corner with sunglasses.
All right, look up Weekend at Bernie's.
It'll be fun. Okay, so if you have been diagnosed with a serious health condition that is expected to be terminal at some point, or if you or your family member are getting older, it's not uncommon to have the doctor discuss with you, do you want a do not resuscitate order, a DNR? So a do not resuscitate order tells the medical professionals, if you're in the hospital or a nursing home or something like that, they say, don't try to restart this person's heart if this person's heart stops. They do not want you to make attempts to resuscitate them. So do not resuscitate. We're not going to do the paddles. We're not going to do CPR. We're not going to take any heroic measures. We're not going to inject your heart with adrenaline like they do in the movies. We're going to let you go. The alternative to that is something called a pulsed or a MOLST if you are from New York, and that is a physician order for life-sustaining treatment, which again it's a written document that you sign and your doctor signs that gives directions. What do I want if you come to my house and my heart has stopped? Yes, I want CPR. No, I don't want CPR. Yes, I want to be kept comfortable. No, I don't want to be, I don't want any pain meds. Yes, I want nutrition and hydration. No, I don't. So we're starting to develop some more sophisticated documents.
And you ask yourself, why do we need all this stuff? Well, it's our country and laws. And if you don't come equipped with all the legal documents, then the hospitals are kind of sit there and kind of what do we do kind of thing.
Yeah, and the younger you are, the more difficult it can be, of course, because if you don't have a partner or a spouse yet, then who's going to make the decisions for you? You have to figure that out.
So you can do living will now? Is that where we're headed to this, or are you done with living will?
Well, the living will we talked about, that's the written document that tells doctors what to do at the end of your life. Then we have a durable power of attorney for healthcare. So that can cover a lot broader situations. So let's say I'm developing dementia. And John's my agent, just like your real estate agent. If you want to go buy a house, John's my agent to make my healthcare decisions for me.
And that's a term of art. That's what lawyers use.
Yeah, so it's probably in the quiz. Pay attention. Okay, so he's my agent. He's my healthcare decision maker. But I need to go to the dentist to get my teeth cleaned. And now I have dementia, so I can't really make that decision for myself. But John, because he has my durable power of attorney for healthcare, can tell my dentist, yes. She wants to have her teeth cleaned. We know that we need to keep her teeth healthy. Go ahead and clean her teeth and do x-rays and things like that. It could happen if I fall down the stairs and hit my head and I'm unconscious, and then John can tell the doctor, yes, go ahead and do surgery, fix her knee, make it better, things like that. Okay,
all right, cool.
Go down. All right.
We already did the DNR. All right.
We did. We did.
All right. Good.
Okay. Cool. Now, the only thing that we have standard documents online that will give you some resources where you can find them. That are valid in most states, but not all states. So it's important if you are putting together a living will or a durable power of attorney for healthcare, that you have a document that's valid in your state. So if you live in California, you can Google California living will or California durable power of attorney for healthcare. Kind of a funny story. We updated ours during the pandemic, and I made sure that our two sons both had durable power of attorney for healthcare documents as well. And I could have drafted it myself, but there's so many good model forms on the internet. I Googled, and Kaiser had one I liked, because I have a dysfunctional family. I'm telling you my secrets. And so there were people that I wanted to make.
Everybody has these television-based perfect
Not
families.
everyone has perfect families. There were people that I want to make decisions for me. I trust John. I trust my two sons. And then there are people in my family that I do not want.
She's talking about her siblings.
I do not want to ever make decisions for me if I am sick, because they will probably make bad decisions. And so the Kaiser form that I used had a section that said, do not allow these people to make decisions for me if I am unable to make my own healthcare decisions. So I thought that was awesome. But yes, the state of California has a form that you can find. The American Bar Association has forms. There's a lot of different websites. caringinfo.org has forms, and those are on the last page of the reading.
So your agent or healthcare proxy, that's what we're talking about. So, choose wisely, basically.
And so you typically, to have these documents be enforceable, you're going to sign it. You're going to have witnesses that sign it for you. You can get it notarized, but that's usually not necessary. But just make sure that you follow the directions in terms of preparing the document so that it is valid and enforceable. And your doctor or your hospital or wherever you normally get treatment, they can provide you with forms as well. And it's a good point that once you have this form, don't take it home and put it in a drawer where no one's going to know where it is. Make sure that you give it. For example, John has access to my copy. We have scanned copies. When John's mom was sick towards the end of her life, we had her durable power of attorney for healthcare copies in both cars, so that if we needed it, we had it close at hand. And now with the advent of electronic health records, you can typically, for most of my doctors, I can go in and I can upload my durable power of attorney so that now my doctor has it, which is great.
Right. And this is, so we're talking about, health care decisions. Next week, we're going to be talking about financial decisions. And this becomes very real as well, because all the same rules, but now, if you have somebody who has some issues, like we were just talking about recently, and you had them as your agent financial back when you thought they were okay, and then they go insane, they can, clean out your assets. And so you got to be careful with money as well. Basically.
Yeah, so the general rule of thumb with these documents is every 5 years revisit it. If you get married, divorced, you move to a different state, you have some major life change, you have kids, something goes on. You would want, for example, if you've gone through a really bitter divorce, you probably don't want your ex to be making healthcare decisions for you. And in a lot of states, the form would automatically be considered invalid if you're no longer married to the person and you signed it before you got divorced.
Okay. So that's the polls and most that she talked about earlier that you can check out later on.
Yes.
Right. Very cool.
And then we have scroll down. All the way down. And so these are some of the good. Caring Info is great. The American Bar Association is great. And so those are probably my two favorites on that list of websites where you can go and get a great form to use for your living will / durable power of attorney for healthcare. You do not need a lawyer to do this. It's super easy. And I recommend that you have these conversations with your family so that you know what your family, what values are important to your family, and your family knows what's important to you.
So, if I know you guys are looking for jobs down the line, so we were talking earlier, and would you do it again, law school? And she said, yes. First of all, it's 3 years, and then boom, you're out, not like med school, it's 4 years, and then you have a 5-year residency, so, and the stuff you're learning about here in class, so there's so much elder law that, obviously your client base is growing. You've learned that in class, estate planning, all of this kind of stuff, is a good reason to be a lawyer. So, cool.
Absolutely.
All right, cool.
Absolutely. Okay. So we talked about the importance of independence and autonomy. That's just to reinforce with you, because if you are not from the US, you're probably used to the family members making the decision with the doctor. And in a lot of other countries, when someone is terminally ill or very, very ill, the family members and the doctors want to protect that person from the pain of knowing that they're terminal. And in the US, we're really the exact opposite. It's very important to communicate to the patient, to have informed consent, to make sure the patient knows what's going on. So it's a little bit different than it is in other countries.
Awesome. Okay, so then we have the discussion, right? And she, it's almost like I was a secret plant in the auditorium here, but again, there's a lot of cultural diversity, in terms of the topics discussed today, and so there's just cultural diversity in general about caring for older people, and that's what this discussion topic's all about.
So what I think about when I think about cultural diversity is how important it is that we understand and respect our elders. I think we could do better on that in the US. And so I think we can model ourselves after a lot of other countries. I have a lot of students who are from China or India, and they say, you know what, things are really different where we're from in the way that we respect our older family members, and we really treat them with care and dignity that we don't see as much in the US. But it's so important for us to understand our elders, to make efforts to be able to communicate with them and to understand their backgrounds and understand how their race, their religion, their national origin, their language, their culture, and all of these things affect their ability to access care as an older person, to access long-term care, to access health care. And if you are in the long-term care industry or in the healthcare industry, if you don't establish trust with that person where they feel that you are seeing them and understanding them and hearing them, then it's really, really, really going to affect their ability to get good care.
Well, read this article here. I didn't check the link. Hopefully the APA link is still working.
Yeah, the APA link is
all right,
fine.
good.
Yeah.
And these two videos are really good. And then I know that a lot of you guys are on the entrepreneurial side of things, and so obviously it is whether it's assisted living facilities or home health care and home health aid delivery. It's not cookie cutter. So every community is going to be different. And so if you want to get ahead and be, the corporation, then you design unique facilities and unique approaches for every community.
Yeah. And I think it's really important how much education you do need to understand different communities, and to not approach the Latinx community as if it's a monolith, or the Asian community as if it's this monolithic thing where everyone's exactly the same, to recognize that there's a tremendous amount of diversity amongst that. So one of the things that we see on the APA Multicultural Aging Guide, which is the document we gave you the link to, is a mention about the fact that Hispanic older adults are a very large growing population in the US. And so this is a big subgroup of our aging population that we need to be prepared to understand and to give good care to. And so that's kind of, if you're going to start somewhere, try to start understanding the older Hispanic population and what their cultural background is, whether there's language differences, food, culture, music, everything, understand where people are coming from so that you can treat them with respect.
So obviously this is just like a one-page little article. So
there's links at the bottom.
There's links at the bottom.
I think are super fascinating.
Right.
So you can go to the online resources and get more information about different groups. So LGBTQ plus is a huge group. I mean, it's not a huge group, but it's a big group that needs support as our LGBTQ plus elders are coming of age. A lot of these people that are getting older now, they came up when gay marriage wasn't legal.
It was a big deal because you might have shared assets your whole life, and then somebody would die or whatever, and or be incapacitated, and the family would swoop in and remove the assets.
Absolutely. It happened to John's aunt, who had lived her whole life with her friend from the army.
Her partner.
And when she died, she made sure that her assets were transferred to John's aunt, but her family came from another state and took her body and left. And it was heartbreaking for John's aunt to not have anyone respect or recognize their relationship.
These are all examples.
So be aware of the fact that certain populations are vulnerable, and the LGBTQ plus population, they may not have come up through the ranks, since gay marriage has only been legal for the last 7 or 8 years. They may not have a long-term partner. They may not have kids, So there's a tremendous risk of isolation and lack of resources. And then one of the things that LGBTQ plus elders worry about is, am I going to be living in a community that respects me, that allows me to be who I am? Am I going to have to deal with harassment or discrimination in a community for older people? And how do I avoid that? So that's a really big deal. We should be thinking about our Black population, our elder population in the Black community in the US. So this is a community that is, a little bit older than I am, but, grew up hearing about things like the Tuskegee syphilis experiments. So we have a population that may not be that comfortable with the medical community and may not be trusting of the medical establishment. And so we've got to be able to work with them and understand them and be compassionate and have empathy for, hey, I understand your experience. I understand where you're coming from. And I understand why you don't trust doctors, because of the things that have happened in the past.
So you have to make inroads to these communities and get trust, but also look for ambassadors to help you.
Yeah, and so we have to understand if, for example, we know from our Alzheimer's unit that our Black American population has a higher risk for Alzheimer's and a higher percentage of cases with Alzheimer's. So we've got to be ready to provide that care. And last but not least, we can't forget our Asian elders in the US. In the last couple of years, we've been dealing with a lot of anti-Asian hate crimes. And so our Asian elders may be worried about, how can I go out in the community as a frail older person and access services and access healthcare and just go to the grocery store? Am I worried that someone's going to run up to me on the street and hit me over the head? And so we've got to be aware of the context of where people are coming from.
And culture's changing. You come from communities where everybody, stayed in the same community, and there was, just 3 or 4 generations that would help each other out, and it was just the norm. And we had multi-generational support. But now we're more global. There's a good chance one of you has an older parent and you're of Asian ancestry, and next you got a job in Washington D.C. And that's where you go. And so what's going to become of your parents and grandparents? And so there's it's a changing tide, and it's something you all have to think about.
And the last community that I worry about in terms of accessing elder care is our rural population, because we're seeing that in our rural parts of our country, a lot of people have to travel a long distance for healthcare, a long distance for long-term care. And so that means they become more isolated, because if the only nursing home is 100 miles away from your house, your family's probably not going to be able to visit you as much as if it were 5 minutes away. And so that rural population is really vulnerable to being isolated, maybe being victims of elder abuse and things like that. So we've got to figure out how to serve that rural population as well. And one of the things I think the federal government is doing better, and certainly the government in California as well, is making sure that issues that are relevant to older people, like Medicare or Medicaid or access to healthcare, that we're creating documents that are in multiple languages, because being limited English proficiency is a huge barrier to services, whether you're in a nursing home or whether you're living in the community and trying to access home health or medical care in general. So now we're starting to say, okay, here's the Medicare and You pamphlet, and it's available for you in Spanish, and it's available in Mandarin, and it's available in a couple other languages. And so I think that will help a lot. But yes, not speaking the same language as your patient creates this huge barrier. And I was thinking today, if I were running a nursing home, I would try to educate my staff so that they could at least say hello and how are you and have a good day in a bunch of different languages.
Yeah, and just you get a smile on your client's face from just doing that. So that's a win.
Alrighty.
All right,
and
cool.
so so in the discussion, you're supposed to say, you know, how would you approach different communities and how would you approach care in different communities if you're in San Clemente or if you're in Arcadia or if you're in, you know, LA or, you know, John grew up in Monterey Park, you know, what would you do to make that patient community feel valued and comfortable and safe and happy? And so you can come up with some creative
Very cool.
suggestions.
Very cool. All right, guys. Peace.
Alrighty.
We'll see you guys soon. This
Right
is a
on.
fun module.
Right
All
on.
right. Bye, Donsky.